We all remember the adrenaline rush of an action blockbuster, the explosions, the chase sequences, the perfectly timed punches. But what if the real chaos wasn't in front of the camera, but behind it? In a world where billion-dollar franchises guard their secrets like state intelligence, a single leak can cost millions, ruin a plot twist, or even cancel a release. And yet, it keeps happening. Footage surfaces before the trailer. Scripts appear on dark web forums. Entire scenes leak in raw, unedited form stolen from within or filmed from a nearby rooftop. These weren't marketing stunts. They were breaches. Unauthorized, unwanted, and in some cases, unexplained. Sometimes the leak came from a careless crew member. Other times from something far more deliberate, an insider with an agenda, or a rival studio with everything to gain. Occasionally, the culprit was never caught, and that's when the whispers start about sabotage, about revenge, about studios playing dirty when the stakes are too high. Because in the action genre, what happens on screen is only half the story. Behind the curtain, there's a battleground of information, surveillance, and control. And sometimes, the spies win. So today, we pull back that velvet curtain to reveal 15 Hollywood action films where the real action unfolded off-screen in stolen files, hacked servers, secret footage, and corporate paranoia. These are the films that were never meant to be seen this way, and the stories they left behind are stranger than fiction. Let's dive into 15 Hollywood action movies that were spied on, hacked, or leaked, and the chaos they left in their wake. Fact shown. The Expendables 32014 leaked before it ever exploded. Imagine spending $90 million on an action blockbuster only to have it stolen and uploaded to the internet weeks before release. That's what happened to The Expendables 3, the third installment of Sylvester Stallone's guns-blazing ensemble franchise. In July 2014, a pristine DVD-quality version of the entire film appeared on torrent sites. It wasn't a grainy cam rip. It was the real deal, fully edited, full-length, and entirely illegal. Lionsgate was stunned. The film wasn't set to premiere until mid-August. Within 24 hours of the leak, it had been downloaded over 100,000 times. By the end of the first week, that number surpassed 2 million. The studio filed lawsuits. Investigators chased IP addresses across Europe, but the damage had already been done. Theatrical attendance tanked, despite a star-studded cast: Stallone, Statham, Banderas, Snipes, Gibson. The film flopped, earning less than its predecessor and sending the franchise into limbo. To this day, no one knows exactly how the leak happened. Some blamed lax security during the post-production phase. Others whispered about an inside job, someone with access and motive. The clean quality of the leak suggested it was a professional rip, not a hack. Ironically, The Expendables 3 was all about elite operatives going rogue. Off-screen, the real sabotage came not from mercenaries, but from someone much quieter and much closer. And this wasn't the only time a major studio learned that surveillance works both ways. Fact #2. Skyfall 2012. James Bond got hacked. You'd think MI6 would be unhackable, but in 2014, even James Bond wasn't safe. During the infamous Sony Pictures hack, a devastating cyber attack believed to be orchestrated by North Korean-linked hackers in retaliation for the interview, a cache of confidential documents was leaked. Buried among executive emails, financial spreadsheets, and unreleased scripts was something explosive. Portions of the screenplay for Spectre, the follow-up to Skyfall, and details of the Bond franchise's development strategy. But it wasn't just Spectre that was exposed. Documents revealed early drafts and production emails for Skyfall, the previous installment, including budget disputes, shooting location approvals, and private memos about Daniel Craig's performance. Some of the leaked material hinted at internal conflict, creative disagreements over the film's pacing, the role of Moneypenny, and early concerns that the third act was too emotional for a Bond film. These were notes no one outside the studio was ever supposed to read. Though Skyfall had already premiered by the time of the hack, the breach rewrote the narrative. Suddenly, Bond was no longer the master of espionage. He was the victim of it. To this day, the Sony hack remains one of the most significant cyber attacks in entertainment history. And Skyfall, a film about global surveillance, became an unintentional case study in how art imitates life until life hacks back. But not all leaks were digital. Some were airborne, captured by drones watching from the skies. Fact #3. Mission Impossible Fallout 2018. Drones in the mist, high-speed chases, death-defying stunts, Tom Cruise dangling from a helicopter. Every mission, Impossible film promises spectacle, but during the filming of Fallout, someone else was watching the spectacle unfold from above. In late 2017, as the production team set up a complex helicopter sequence in the mountains of New Zealand, unregistered drones began appearing over the set. At first, the crew thought it was just curious locals, but the drones returned, frequently, persistently, and from angles that suggested more than amateur interest. What made it worse? Footage from these drones surfaced online before the official trailer dropped. Grainy but revealing, the videos captured Tom Cruise performing his own stunts in a mountain gorge footage that the studio had spent millions to protect, both physically and in marketing strategy. Paramount Pictures launched an internal investigation. No one ever claimed responsibility. The suspicion? A rival outlet, or worse, someone inside the production tipping off outside drone operators for a price. The irony was cruel. In a franchise obsessed with covert surveillance, encrypted messages, and enemy operatives hiding in plain sight, real espionage had crept into the very making of the movie. And yet, the most shocking leak wasn't about helicopters or hackers. It was a test video that was never supposed to reach the public and accidentally launched an entire franchise. Fact hash 4. Deadpool, 2016. The leak that saved a franchise. Some leaks destroy a film. This one made it possible. In 2012, 20th Century Fox was sitting on a Deadpool script, rated, hyper-violent, and relentlessly meta. It was everything studios feared wouldn't sell. They shelved it, despite fan interest and years of passion from Ryan Reynolds. Then, in July 2014, something strange happened. A 2-minute test footage clip leaked online. The footage featured a fully CGI Deadpool dropping into a car full of thugs, cracking jokes, and executing brutal action with cartoonish flair. It was raw, unfinished, but unforgettable. Fans went wild. The video spread like wildfire across forums, Reddit, and YouTube. The studio tried to appear surprised, but some insiders weren't buying it. The timing, the polish, the fact that the clip had clearly been developed with love, it all felt too clean. Speculation swirled. Was it leaked or planted? Ryan Reynolds later admitted he'd been trying to get that footage released for years. He stopped short of naming who finally hit upload, but added with a wink, "There's 4 of us that know. We may never say who." Whoever the culprit was, the results were undeniable. Within weeks, Fox greenlit the film. And when Deadpool finally hit theaters in 2016, it shattered box office records for an unrated film. Ironically, a character known for breaking the fourth wall had to break security protocols first to even exist. But not every leak had a silver lining. For some productions, it was a threat, not a joke. Fact hash 5. The Dark Knight Rises, 2012. Gotham, unfiltered. Christopher Nolan is notorious for secrecy. Scripts printed on red paper to prevent photocopying. Scenes shot under fake titles. Cast members receiving pages only hours before filming. But in 2011, during the production of The Dark Knight Rises, that secrecy was shattered. Shooting in Pittsburgh brought Batman's world into a very real city. Bridges closed, streets filled with tanks, and with that came crowds, hundreds of bystanders with smartphones. Soon, unapproved footage began appearing online. Bane's convoy, Batman's new gadgets, entire chase scenes filmed from rooftops and balconies. The most damaging leak? A poorly recorded but revealing video of a key scene between Bruce Wayne and Selina Kyle. The dialogue was muffled, but the visuals were clear. It confirmed a romantic subplot the studio had kept under wrap. Nolan was furious, not because of the spoilers, but because the footage lacked the cinematic control he demanded. His meticulously crafted vision was being digested in shaky, pixelated clips. Warner Brothers issued takedown notices, but the damage was done. Thousands had already seen it. Some fans even speculated plot points based on blurry frame analysis, creating online theories that spiraled out of control. The irony? A film about chaos and control had been partially derailed by the very city it was trying to honor. Gotham wasn't overrun by criminals, it was overrun by smartphones. But not all footage came from fans. Some came from places far colder and far more calculated. Fact hash 6. Fast and Furious 82017. Iceland infiltrated. In early 2016, Universal Pictures sent a stunt crew to the remote wilderness of Iceland to shoot one of the most ambitious car sequences in franchise history. Explosions, submarines, vehicles drifting across frozen lakes. It was supposed to be unfilmable by outsiders. They were wrong. Shortly after the crew began filming, High-resolution photos and videos surfaced on car enthusiast forums showing chase setups, pyrotechnic rigs, and even close-ups of stunt vehicles. Some of the images were taken from alarming proximity, despite security barriers. The leak raised alarms. Iceland was chosen precisely because of its isolation. So, how had this footage escaped? Production heads suspected a breach not from above, but within. An Icelandic subcontractor working on logistics may have passed access to media or online influencers hungry for exclusives. Others believed it was a drone op one flown low enough to dodge detection and get dangerously close to the explosion zones. Universal issued no public statement, but internally, new protocols were added to the remaining shoots. Zones were locked down tighter. Local staff underwent additional background checks, and the crew was reminded again that in the digital age, secrecy isn't geographical, it's behavioral. Ironically, for a film about family, trust had become the rarest currency on set. And this wasn't the last time technology outpaced security. The next case involved a legend, a body double, and a camera that wasn't supposed to be rolling. Fact #7. Terminator Genisys, 2015. The Spy Within. During production on Terminator Genisys, Paramount Pictures faced a threat that no time-traveling cyborg could predict someone inside the production might have been filming scenes and selling them. Filmed in 2014, Genisys was a high-profile reboot. Arnold Schwarzenegger had returned. Emilia Clarke was the new Sarah Connor. The stakes were high, the secrecy even higher. Scripts were locked, shooting schedules were fragmented, and phones were banned on set. Yet, within weeks of filming in New Orleans, behind the scenes photos began appearing on niche movie blogs. At first, they were harmless. Crew setups, glimpses of costumes, but then a shaky clip surfaced showing Arnold, in full costume, interacting with his younger body double on a green screen stage. That footage was never cleared, and worse, it was shot from within. The angle, the proximity, the access, it couldn't have come from a fan hiding in the bushes. It was someone on the crew. Security was tightened, internal reviews were conducted, background checks were rerun, but no culprit was ever named. Quietly, one crew member left the production mid-shoot. The studio never linked it officially, but insiders suspected the exit wasn't voluntary. Ironically, the film's plot revolved around time loops and identity confusion. But off-screen, the real problem was more basic. Someone had betrayed the production from the inside. It was a reminder that the greatest threat to any movie might be holding a clipboard just off camera. Fact #8. Spectre 2015. Shaken, not secured. The world of Bond was never supposed to be predictable, but in 2014, the 007 franchise lost control of its secrets in the most humiliating way possible. In the now infamous Sony hack, Spectre became collateral damage. Multiple drafts of the script were stolen and leaked, revealing plot twists, villain motivations, and even alternative endings. For a franchise that thrives on surprise, it was a cinematic catastrophe. Among the documents, tense email exchanges between executives over the film's bloated budget, Daniel Craig's physical injuries during filming, and a heated disagreement about the third act's climax. There were memos suggesting producers were unhappy with early cuts, calling them generic and lacking Bond identity. But perhaps most damaging was the leak of product placement contracts. Fans discovered that certain scenes had been altered to accommodate sponsors, from watches to cars. The illusion of cool, it turned out, had been partly bought. Sony scrambled to control the damage. Rewrites were ordered, security was restructured, and internally, trust in email communication all but collapsed. Spectre eventually released to solid box office numbers, but the shadow of the hack lingered. Every twist was second-guessed. Every surprise had already been dissected online. In a franchise built on secrecy, Spectre became a cautionary tale, proof that even the world's most famous spy could be outmaneuvered by hackers in hoodies. And not every leak needed hacking. Some happened in plain sight on a sidewalk in New York. Fact #9. John Wick, Chapter 3. Parabellum, 2019. Leaked in broad daylight, no drones, no hackers, no insiders, just a city that never sleeps and a franchise too big to hide. In 2018, John Wick, Chapter 3 was deep into production in New York. One evening, as Keanu Reeves filmed a motorcycle chase on the Manhattan Bridge, dozens of pedestrians nearby pulled out their phones. They weren't just taking photos, they were capturing the entire sequence. Within hours, the footage hit the internet. high-speed pursuits, stunt choreography. Reeves, in full costume, it was all online before the studio had released a single teaser. Unlike other productions, Lionsgate didn't attempt legal takedowns. They understood the reality. When you film in public, you're exposed. But the leak had consequences. Fan speculation ran wild, dissecting the footage frame by frame. Plot threads were theorized, spoilers were confirmed. And one key surprise, a character reveal was spotted too early and lost its intended impact. The studio pivoted, marketing timelines were accelerated. Teasers dropped earlier than planned. What was supposed to be a carefully timed rollout became reactive damage control. Ironically, John Wick 3 is a film about assassins who live in the shadows. But on that bridge, under city lights, there were no shadows left. Just hundreds of glowing phone screens and one silent camera crew, watching their work go viral too soon. But some leaks didn't just spoil surprises. They threatened entire marketing campaigns tied to geopolitical sensitivities. Fact Hassan Zero, Black Widow, 2021. The leak from within. After years of delays and anticipation, Black Widow was supposed to be Marvel's triumphant return to theaters, a female-led spy thriller, finally giving Natasha Romanoff her due. But before the first trailer even dropped, a key action sequence was already circulating in a country far from Hollywood. In early 2020, a series of high-definition behind-the-scenes clips surfaced on Chinese video-sharing platform. The footage showed Scarlett Johansson's stunt double performing wire-assisted flips, choreographed hand-to-hand fights, and even close-up rehearsals with Florence Pugh. These weren't blurry fan captures, they were clean, well-framed, and clearly shot from within the production. Marvel's notoriously strict security protocols had been bypassed. But how? Reports suggested the leak originated from a foreign VFX subcontractor, one of several third-party companies handling footage and pre-visualizations across time zones. Somewhere along the pipeline, internal videos meant for review were saved and then quietly uploaded. Marvel didn't acknowledge the leak publicly, but the damage was clear. The sequence was meant to be a key mid-film reveal, introducing the dynamic between Natasha and Yelena. Now, fans had already watched it months ahead of schedule. Ironically, a film about betrayal and covert surveillance had fallen victim to the very systems it depicted. And for Marvel, it wasn't the first time. But this leak stung more because it came not from outside, but from a partner, a trusted link in a very long chain. The next leak, however, wouldn't come from a server farm. It came from a drone hovering above an apocalypse. Fact Hassonon, Mad Max, Fury Road, 2015, Fury in the Sky. George Miller's Mad Max. Fury Road was a logistical miracle. Hundreds of practical effects, real explosions, and stunt vehicles tearing across the Namibian desert. Every frame was carefully designed chaos, but not all of it was captured by the film crew. During a multi-day shoot in 2013, as the production detonated tanker trucks and sent armored cars flying through sandstorms, an unauthorized drone buzzed overhead, operated by a South African vlogger, stationed dozens of kilometers away. The footage he captured, shaky but dramatic, offered a bird's-eye view of the pyrotechnics and choreography in real time. Within days, clips appeared online. Fans were stunned. Real action, zero CGI, and a glimpse at the raw mechanics of blockbuster filmmaking. But the studio wasn't pleased. Warner Brothers launched an investigation. The drone had entered Namibian airspace without clearance and violated the film's restricted zone. Legal action was threatened, but difficult to enforce due to jurisdictional complications. The vlogger removed the video only after it had gone viral. The biggest concern wasn't spoilers, it was image control. Fury Road was designed to be revealed slowly, mythically, through stylized trailers. The leaked drone footage stripped that magic away, exposing the machinery behind the spectacle. In a film about speed, fury, and survival in a world of collapsing order, the real disorder had come from above a quiet, whirring propeller, watching from the sky. But the next breach wouldn't be from a camera. It would be something worse: encryption, ransom demands, and total blackout. Fact 12. No Time to Die, 28/20. Ransom for 007. It was supposed to be Daniel Craig's farewell, a tightly guarded swan song, But as No Time to Die neared completion in late 2019, MGM faced a threat not from paparazzi or fans, but from criminals with code. During post-production, a cyber attack struck MGM's internal servers. Encrypted files, including pre-release assets for No Time to Die, were locked behind ransom demands. Studio operations froze, editors were locked out of their own projects, marketing timelines were disrupted. And among the files at risk, early sound mixes, special effects renders, and unfinished sequences involving the film's major plot points. The ransom group, believed to be a sophisticated, for-profit entity, demanded payment in cryptocurrency. MGM refused. The studio's IT team spent weeks restoring access. Backup servers were deployed. For a brief moment, it looked like a 007 level scenario had crossed into reality. A shadowy organization hijacking a global product for profit. Fortunately, the most sensitive footage was air-gapped, never connected to external networks. But the scare was real, and it shifted policy. MGM restructured its digital pipeline. Remote access was minimized. Cybersecurity teams were expanded. Ironically, the film's plot dealt with bioweapons, data tracking, and enemies who operate in the invisible layers of society. Reality was closer than fiction. No Time to Die survived. But it emerged from post-production knowing one thing for certain. Sometimes, the real villain doesn't need a gun, just a password. Fact Hasson 3, The Matrix Resurrections, 2021, The Sidewalk Spoiler. Few franchises are as obsessed with control as The Matrix. Every detail is layered, encrypted with metaphor and meaning. But during the filming of Resurrections in San Francisco, the illusion cracked right on the sidewalk. In early 2020, cameras rolled on a high-stakes action sequence set along a downtown street. Keanu Reeves and Carrie-Anne Moss, reunited as Neo and Trinity, were spotted preparing for a rooftop jump. Production assistants scrambled to block bystanders, but it was too late. From hotel windows, apartment balconies, and even passing rideshare vehicles, dozens of phones captured the scene. The footage revealed stunt doubles preparing the iconic leap. More than that, it exposed Moss's character alive and fighting, a direct spoiler contradicting her death in Revolutions. Warner Brothers tried to suppress the clips, issuing takedowns on YouTube and Twitter, but the images spread faster than any cease and desist. The scene meant to be a trailer reveal was dissected by fans long before official marketing began. Director Lana Wachowski was reportedly unfazed, stating that leaks were inevitable in a connected world. Still, the creative team adapted. Dialogue was redubbed. Editing adjusted to maintain surprise where possible. Ironically, The Matrix is a story about manipulated perception. This time, perception wasn't crafted by the filmmaker, it was dictated by a shaky smartphone from across the street. The next breach, however, wasn't accidental. It was calculated. It came from a leak of internal documents that revealed storyboards before a single camera even rolled. Fact Hasson 4, Transformers: Age of Extinction, 2014, The Storyboard Breach. Blockbuster action films run on spectacle, but the real power is in the blueprint, and someone stole it. In late 2013, Transformers: Age of Extinction was in pre-production. The script was under wraps, the casting still incomplete. But one day, a series of storyboard images began appearing on niche movie blog. They showed a desert battle involving massive Cybertronian ships and the introduction of new Dinobot characters months before any official announcement. What shocked fans more than the content was the detail. The frames weren't sketches, they were polished, studio-rendered previews, the kind reserved for internal planning and investor pitches. Someone had access, and someone had leaked. Paramount launched an internal sweep. Only a handful of production designers had seen the material. The source was never officially revealed, but quietly, NDAs were reinforced, and digital assets were watermarked in future productions. The storyboards revealed more than just visuals. They confirmed plot beats, character arcs, and even hinted at toy line collaborations. For a franchise tightly interwoven with merchandise strategy, it was a commercial leak, not just a creative one. In a world where robots in disguise sell billions, Age of Extinction had its hand tipped early, and by someone who knew exactly what they were looking for. But if any production knew what it meant to be watched, it was the one that took to the skies and found someone else watching back. Fact Hasson 5, Top Gun: Maverick, 2022, The Flycam Intrusion. The sequel to Top Gun was built around authenticity, real jets, real G-forces, real actors in cockpits. Tom Cruise had insisted, no green screens, no cheats, just speed, sky, and sweat. But as filming entered its aerial phase in 2019, a breach occurred, silent, airborne, and dangerously close. During a classified training sequence over California's China Lake military facility, a small flycam drone penetrated the restricted airspace and hovered within visual range of a jet rigged with IMAX cameras. The pilot spotted it. The footage team did too. By the time ground security responded, the drone had vanished. No footage was released publicly, but rumors circulated in aviation forums. Someone had captured Cruise in mid-flight doing the real thing. The breach triggered an internal crisis. Was it a spy drone? A hobbyist? A military leak? The studio never addressed it. The Pentagon didn't comment, but additional measures were enacted immediately. No. Fly zones expanded, electronic jamming introduced, and schedules shifted to night shoots. Ironically, Top Gun Maverick was about elite pilots surveilling enemies with technology. But in that moment, the hunter became the hunted. The film went on to break box office records. But behind the polished cockpit footage was a shadow of unease. Even at 30,000 feet, you're never truly alone. Bonus fact, the film that was never meant to exist, Gunhead, 1989. This one didn't make the top 15. But it might just be the strangest of all. In the late 1980 seconds, Japan's Toho Studios quietly greenlit Gunhead, a cyberpunk meets mech action film co-produced with American partners. It was a bold move, half English, half Japanese, packed with practical effects and dystopian design. But before the first teaser dropped, rumors spread across Tokyo and Los Angeles. Someone had already seen it. The film hadn't screened, it hadn't even locked its final cut. But somehow, collectors on the VHS bootleg circuit began circulating low-quality recordings of early dailies' raw, time-coded footage featuring actors stumbling through incomplete sets and blue-screen sequences not yet composited. Where did it come from? Some believe a production assistant sold a copy to a bootleg distributor in Hong Kong. Others whisper that it was punishment, a disgruntled staffer leaking material after being cut out of a profit share. The strangest part? The leaked version became a cult artifact. Western sci-fi fans thought it was the real movie, an underground gem lost to censorship or sabotage. Years later, Gunhead finally released theatrically and disappointed everyone who had built it up in their heads. The film was flawed, but the myth was bulletproof. It remains a rare case of a leak giving a mediocre action film legendary status by accident. Sometimes, the story around the footage matters more than the footage itself. And in Hollywood or Tokyo, it's not just what you shoot, it's what escapes. So, which of these leaks do you think was sabotage and which were simply inevitable? In an industry built on illusion, even a single unplanned frame can tear a hole through the curtain. Was it greed, carelessness, or something more strategic? And here's the real question. Is any film truly secure in a world where everyone has a camera and someone always wants to watch? Tell us, what's the most shocking behind-the-scenes story you've ever heard about a film that didn't go as planned? We're listening.